Hello, I'm Kim Butler, and today's money myth is that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. So compounding interest, just in case you weren't aware, is interest on interest, meaning you have an account, it grows, that's interest, and then it grows again, so you get interest on interest. And there are lots of people that think compounding of wealth, compounding of money, is absolutely the eighth wonder of the world. But it comes with some challenges. And so I'd like to chat about those today. They are primarily related to the taxes that are charged on interest. So we're talking about not retirement accounts, non-IRAs, non-annuities, non-401k plans. These are just regular taxable accounts that you would have, like a savings account. Arguably, interest is very low on savings accounts right now as we're recording this in 2016. But just run with the idea of interest in savings accounts. It could be CDs. It could be also dividends and capital gains from like a mutual fund or any other type of thing where interest and dividends or capital gains, I'm just going to use the interest word, is being reinvested. So the myth, again, is that compounding interest is a good thing. Interest on interest on interest. Well, guess what? If your interest is taxable and you're getting interest on interest on interest, that means you're getting tax on tax on tax. Now, that increasing tax can be a problem. And I didn't used to agree with this, but where I got proof of it is when I had a client come in and their tax return had on Schedule B, B as in boy, that's where you look at where this particular interest gets taxed on a tax return. They had been given an inheritance, and the interest that they earned on the inheritance in that year was more than they had in their savings account. And this was a problem year after year after year. They had to take money out of the investment that created the interest in order to pay tax on that interest. And so obviously, if this was going to keep happening, where the tax was growing all the time because the investment was growing all the time, but then they were having to shrink the investment to pay the tax, you can see the circular nature of this and how in some years it could be good if the growth was more than what they had to remove from taxes. But in other years, it wasn't good because the growth was less, but there were still taxes, so they still had to remove money from the investment, so then the investment was going down. And it was just, again, a circular nightmare, really, where this growing tax because of compounding interest was detrimental to them. Again, remembering that this is not in an IRA or a 401k plan or any kind of retirement plan. So the money myth is that compound interest is wonderful and helpful. The solution is to take your interest out every month or every year. Now, oftentimes we think, oh gosh, I don't want to do this. This is a good investment. I want to reinvest. Again, remember, interest in our discussion could also mean dividends and capital gains. But if you skim the cream off the crop, if you take the interest and the dividends and the capital gains out every year, you, in a sense, flatten that account. Now, it may still grow depending on the type of investment. There might be underlying long-term capital gains. But if you take out interest, dividends, and short-term capital gains, and you move those dollars into something else, it could be a checking account to start our discussion with. We'll talk about some other areas in a minute. But if you just move those dollars into something else, then that account, while it still may grow a little bit, will not grow as much. That will, in essence, reduce the amount of growth on the account, hence reduce the amount of growth on the investment, hence reduce the amount of growth on tax. So you're essentially flattening the account and, in essence, flattening out the tax. Then what do you do with the money? You could pay car insurance premiums with it. You could pay life insurance premiums with it. You could use it to build up another account in an environment that wasn't taxed. But what's important is that we don't get caught into thinking that compounding interest is going to be the eighth wonder of the world, and we just let this account go and it gets taxed and taxed and taxed and taxed. The other challenge with compounding interest is the fees. So the fees that you're paying the manager grow with the account. So interest on interest on interest means fees on fees on fees, same as the taxes. And there's really no way to reduce those fees other than, same strategy, put the growth somewhere else. So skim the cream off the crop, take the top of the account, the interest, the short-term dividends, and the short-term capital gains, and put those dollars in another place, and then the fees will stay flat. And this strategy enables you to keep the account. I'm not saying get rid of the investment, just change your strategy. Now, what's interesting about this is that this strategy is actually created by the banks and the financial institutions that provide the accounts. It's simply checking a different box. So most default account applications reinvest. But if you check the box, pay interest in cash, or pay dividends in cash, or pay short-term capital gains in cash, then it won't get reinvested, and you will have busted the money myth of compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world.